All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Focus Friday. I am super excited for this morning's session. We have a very special guest with us. Tori Keichinger is the VP of Brand Marketing for Coldwell Banker. So Tori has led some of the most engaging national advertising campaigns in the industry, driven the brand's advertising strategy across social and video and broadcast media, leads our Coldwell Banker social media strategy, rolling out new brand initiatives all the time. So Tori, we are so glad to have you here. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm so excited for this.
Yes, of course. Yeah, Tori and I were talking earlier this week, kind of going back and forth about some of the different things we could cover. And probably, what would you say, Tori came up with about 2 or 3 hours of content. So we're gonna
at least
we're gonna cut it down. We've got 30 minutes, so we've got a lot of great stuff for you today. So best practices, marketing, social media, going to touch on a whole bunch of different things. So grab your notebook. We are just going to jump right in. Got lots to cover. So Tori, first thing I wanted to kind of start with and get your thoughts on were some strategies for agents who might not have a big sphere of influence. So they might not have a lot of contacts in their database. Maybe they are new to the industry, or they're just moving to a new area. So just wanted to get your thoughts. What are some strategies? I know you have a couple of slides prepared as well, but just kind of jumping right in. What are your thoughts? What are your tips for agents to kind of build up and grow their brand awareness in their database?
Sure. So first of all, for everybody that's listening in, I hope that you recognize the leadership that you have that's running today's session and that is empowering and supporting you every single day. When Carrie and I were talking about how we should structure today's conversation, she asked me, like, would you be game to just answer some of the hot questions that all of you have? And I think that's just a testament to fantastic leadership, people that are actively listening to you and wanting to help you grow in your business. So just wanted to throw that out there first and foremost. So Carrie, Todd, thank you for the opportunity. So I love this question because while it applies to those that might not have, the sphere of influence, the size that you want, really it's sort of like back to the basics for those that already do have a larger sphere of influence too, right? So I think that one of the places that my mind goes to is barrier to entry, right? How do I test and learn without making a large investment? And one of the best ways that my mind, or best things that my mind goes to immediately is social media, right? Very low barrier to entry, but you can't just expect that posting to social media is immediately going to have that impact. You have to have a strategy behind it. And when I think about social media, really, I think about it in 3 different ways, right? The content that you're putting out there organically, right? That sort of push message. The content that you are sharing, you need to have a strategy behind that. It can't simply just be, listing content post after listing content post. Obviously, that's incredible to show, the activity that you have. But you also need to add a little bit of your personal flair there too, right? You need to share content that is going to encourage engagement back with you. So things like, sharing your perspective on the market, adding a little bit of flavor of what you're seeing in your perspective. Or maybe you've read an article recently that resonated with you, share the link to that article and add a little bit of your 2 cents, a sentence or 2 of your take on it. In addition to those listing content posts, also sharing things like, if you frequent a local business that you love, share something around that, tag them in the post so that they're likely to reshare that post and you have that exposure. So that's just organic content. And I think what a lot of people forget is that really only about 5% of your audience is actually seeing the organic content that you put out there. And it's only your existing audience. So if you're talking about wanting to grow your sphere, you're likely going to need to think about investing in some paid advertising. That's where, think of organic content. When we think about organic, right, it keeps us healthy. But when you think about paid advertising, that's like the fertilizer. That's what's going to help you expand your network. And a lot of folks think about paid advertising on social media as being a way to advertise their listings, which is absolutely true. In this market, one might question, like, do I actually even need to be doing that? But we sometimes forget about paid advertising on social media for ourselves. And, sometimes we feel a little awkward about doing that. Well, what is my message going to be? Is it just going to be a branding message? but thinking about it in terms of, an ad around, do you know how much your home is worth? Contact me, let me give you a home valuation. Something that inspires activity. That's really where my mind goes when it comes to social media, expanding your network. Two other suggestions that I would give. One is think grassroots. And I think we have a slide, Carrie, that will show this. A lot of folks are, wanting to know, well, what other avenues outside of social media should I be thinking about? And when I'm talking, when the question is about growing my sphere, the recommendation that I would give is advertise in places that are core to your community and that you frequent. So what you're seeing here is two examples of that, right? Let's say that maybe one of your kids is in Little League. And so you go to the baseball games every weekend, or maybe you're like in a tennis league that you go and you play every weekend, but somewhere that you are physically. And the reason that I say this is because imagine this scenario. You're sitting in the bleachers of that Little League game and someone looks out and sees your signage out there and they say, "Is that you? Oh yeah, I'm a real estate agent with Coldwell Banker Distinctive Properties." "Oh, real estate, well, how's the market?" Instantly you have a conversation now. So instead of simply billboard advertising, right, that someone might drive by and you have no idea if they've actually seen it or absorbed it, this sort of like grassroots advertising where you're likely to have some sort of a conversation with a real person out of that, I think is one of the best ways to think about sort of beyond social media, expanding that sphere. And I know, Carrie, to your point, we could go on all of these questions. The last thing that I'll share is actually not marketing, but it is a program through our Coldwell Banker University called AMP. And I think you have a slide for this too, Carrie, that shows some of the impact that our Coldwell Banker agents have seen after they go through the AMP program. It's a productivity course. You have not heard of it or you've not gone through it before. It gives you real action plans to help supercharge your productivity, but even more important than that, it gives you an accountability program. So something that's going to check back in with you and make sure that you're taking those actions that will help you expand your business. And you can see just from some of the metrics here, those agents that do go through this program really do see that true impact on their business. So those are the three things that I would recommend: doubling down on social media because it's cost effective, thinking grassroots, and making investment in your business, in the business practices that you're doing every day.
That's great. Yeah, I love the idea of kind of using organic social media to keep you healthy. But then if you actually want to grow and expand, considering some of those different options for advertising, I know you're going to go into detail on a couple of those options later on. But yeah, with your point to AMP too, I remember reading that people who take that class and are really engaged in it are actually setting appointments during the class and actively growing their sphere as they're in it, which is really cool too, and a good way to, just kind of be making those contacts.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So my next question for you, kind of as we're talking about marketing platforms, there's a lot out there. It can be kind of overwhelming as to, all of these different things are out there. We know we need to be doing a lot, to market ourselves, but we can't possibly do everything everywhere. So what are your tips for helping agents to kind of narrow down what are some of the best platforms to really be focusing on to have the greatest impact on their business?
Sure. Everybody wants the silver bullet. They're like, what's the one platform that is going to supercharge my business? And I wish I had an answer for you. If I did, I would be probably a billionaire. But you probably are going to hate my answer. My answer is that it depends on your goal. What are you trying to achieve? And based on that, then I can back into the best platform. So I'll give you a couple of examples. If the goal that you're looking for is to expand your awareness, right? You want people to associate your name, your brand with real estate. You want mass reach. So you're going to be looking for platforms that are going to give you impressions. That's the terminology we use in the media world. The most number of eyeballs. So obviously social media is a really cost-effective way to achieve that. And when you're thinking about advertising on social media, if awareness is your goal, then you should be focused on impression and an impression buy, not necessarily on a conversion buy, because that is not going to give you the expanded reach that you're looking for. But then other things like out of home, so billboard advertising, obviously it expands your awareness. Online video, if you have a YouTube channel, you can purchase what's called True View. So those 5 seconds before a YouTube ad runs. So those are really a lot of the sort of awareness builders. Then you start getting into the higher level awareness things like television and radio and digital display. But if your goals are more around prospecting, you want to be thinking about platforms that are going to give you more opportunities for targeting. So when we hear targeting, I think a lot of us immediately go to thinking about social media, right? Really defining what is the audience that I truly want to reach, because awareness is just saying, give me eyeballs. Prospecting, thinking about targeting, you want to get specific with maybe the interests that you're layering onto your audiences, or the location of those audiences, really starting to narrow down which are the eyeballs that I really want to get in front of, because I think they're going to be the greatest likelihood of business for me. And then when we start talking about true lead generation, like I want to convert this set of eyeballs into an action, into someone picking up the phone and calling me, that's where you want to look at platforms that are going to encourage that the most. So social media is one of the greatest lead generation opportunities because it has that direct link to a call to action. Click this form, fill it out, and send me a lead, or click this button and click to call me, send me an email. But also platforms like the search engine marketing, right? Google or Bing, where someone's actively searching for a keyword, and then you're able to capture that lead right there. So I think it really depends on what your goal is that will make the platform work hardest for you.
Awesome. Yeah, and I'll pull up the slide too. I think you have a really good summary of it here. So really kind of just narrowing down on what is the goal, and I think that would be different for agents in different stages of their business. Todd, I know you talk a lot about the listings, leads, and leverage. So kind of figuring out what is your goal at this stage of your business, and then figuring out what are the different platforms that will get you to that right spot. So I think this is a really good summary slide of just, what are some of the different things, for each, so maybe a newer agent, who is focused on just kind of getting their name out there, would be focused on some of those things. But I'm seeing social media in all of the categories, so that might be a good place to start.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And direct mail is listed on here on the prospecting side of things. Often people think about this as more of like an awareness campaign, but direct mail can be expensive. So if you're going to be doing a campaign that involves direct mail, make sure that you're scrubbing your list and focusing in on those that you think are going to be your greatest prospects. And one of the tips I would give you there is when you're looking at your database, or are you looking at it from the perspective of how long have people been in their home? And then are you like almost measuring that up against generational trends? We know certain generations are in their homes for longer and are likely to make a move at certain points. So that might be one lens that you look at a direct mail campaign through. So really keeping that targeting perspective in mind when you're looking at different platforms.
For sure. So that's a good segue into my next question, which is actually, what if my goal is to reach a luxury audience? What are some of the differences? What are some things that I should be doing differently for a luxury audience versus maybe a traditional one?
Sure. So, well, the first thing that you should be doing if you're looking at targeting a global luxury audience, if you're not already global luxury certified, that's numero uno. And we actually have a virtual course coming up on June 22nd and 23rd. So you don't even have to leave your home to get global luxury certified. It is a fantastic course. It's taught by really the creme de la creme in the Coldwell Banker industry, in conjunction with the Institute for Luxury Home Marketing. So not only do you get a designation of being a Coldwell Banker Global Luxury Certified luxury property specialist, but you also get a second designation out of the Institute for Luxury Home Marketing. And folks like Jade Mills out in Beverly Hills, who's one of the top agents in the country, actually take you inside their tips and tricks and show you how they go on a listing presentation. So it's the number one thing that you should be doing if you're thinking about the luxury market, if you haven't already. And if you took it, several years ago, you might want to go back and take it as a refresh too. So that's the first thing. But then when we're talking about luxury marketing and luxury audiences, three things. The first, number one, networking. And it's not just networking with potential clients, networking with Coldwell Banker network friends as well. And I'll give you one example of this. Dawn McKenna is an agent, fantastic agent with incredible business based out of the Chicago, Illinois market. And she was starting to recognize that a lot of her clients were either retiring and moving to the West Coast of Florida, or they were looking to purchase a second home in the West Coast of Florida, most likely in the Naples area. And she was like, I'm referring all of this business to other agents in that market. What if I just were to expand my team and actually be able to service my clients in the two markets that I know that they are transacting in the most? And so the Dawn McKenna group now has business in both Chicago, Illinois, as well as the West Coast of Florida. Now, not saying that, all of you are going to go out and expand a team and operate in two different areas, but I know that many of you on the call operate in, resort markets. Are you making connections with Coldwell Banker, friends in our network that are going to bring you business, those sort of fuel markets into your area? So that's the first thing that I would say is make sure that you're networking with those within the global luxury space. The second is everything that you do in the luxury space should be about lifestyle. So the Global Luxury Program has this 9-pound box that comes fully loaded with things like our Homes and Estates magazine, listing presentation, and a number of other, beautiful pieces. And I would say thinking about that as just one sort of like fit and finish, right? Everything in there is beautifully presented. Whether you're sending that ahead of a listing presentation or using it as a leave behind, is a really fantastic tool to kind of leverage within your business, but take that same approach in everything that you're doing. So if you're placing an ad in a luxury publication in your market, it doesn't have to convey everything that you do. Think about that polish in the design of any advertising that you're putting out there, because the luxury, perspective really has a refined eye for the message that you're delivering. But one of the other pieces that I would highlight when it comes to luxury marketing is something I think a lot of people forget, that, we think about luxury advertising, but one of the best things that we can be doing is actually earning media instead of paying for it. Because especially in the luxury market, credibility is so incredibly important. So leveraging an opportunity to become a subject matter expert and be quoted by your local media, get maybe featured on your local news through your expertise. The Coldwell Banker Public Relations team puts out a monthly briefing that gives you statistics about how the real estate market is performing nationally every single month. All you have to do is layer on some of your local statistics on top of that, and then be able to pitch yourself to whether it's local, print media, local broadcast media, and be featured as one of the subject matter experts. To me, I think that is almost like 3 times more valuable than any advertising you can do, because someone else is validating you as an expert in your market. So that, don't forget about that earned media. And when it comes to advertising platforms, I think the luxury market really is one of the areas where it is so specific to your market. So, keep an eye on what you believe is working in your area. Print in the luxury space is one of the areas where I say print is not dead. If anything, the affluent audience leans on print media more heavily. For some of our properties that are at a higher price point, they're not as likely to move as quickly. So print can be an area where, it makes a little bit more sense. But social media is also a huge aspect of luxury marketing here. And I have a few folks towards the end of the the program that I'll give you some recommendations to follow for some of the best in the business. The Jill Zeter Group does $2 billion in production, and they own social media in a really unique way. So I would say those are just a few thought starters on the global luxury front.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, one of my personal favorites is the Home of the Week that you and your team and the global luxury team put out. We actually have a listing that'll be featured in that in a couple of weeks here in Breckenridge. So we're really excited about, every time we have a listing that we're able to be, promoting on your channels as well is always really exciting for us.
I love it. Yeah, and you can submit a luxury listing for that feature, and then we publish it not only on the Coldwell Banker brand channels, but then you can take that and reshare it and showcase it on yours as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and definitely want to give a shout out to we had a big group of agents this past weekend at the Engage Summit in LA. So I'm definitely excited to hear, from all of them as to all of the networking opportunities that they had there. So great tips for luxury marketing. Thank you.
Sure. And I just saw a question come into the chat about the commercial connection. And we've actually been talking a lot about this, about how global luxury and commercial is so intertwined, because many of the global luxury clients that you might work with on the residential side oftentimes are business owners themselves. So making sure that you're capturing both sides of that business, and making sure that you're creating those connections across the lines too.
For sure. Yeah, that's an awesome connection. We hadn't really thought about until we started talking about recently. And yeah, it makes total sense. So switching gears just a touch, I wanted to get your thoughts. A lot of times we feel, the agents who are having a lot of success with their marketing efforts are not really reinventing the wheel. They're kind of jumping on board with the trends that they're already seeing happening in the marketing world. So what are your thoughts? What should we be kind of keeping an eye out for as far as some trends that are coming up within the next year or so that we should just be kind of keeping an eye out and considering for our businesses?
Sure. I feel like all I do every day is chase new trends because it's always changing, right? I guess the first thing that I would say is, and you're seeing a theme here, there are new social media networks that pop up all the time, and the game that we're always trying to play is like, is this one going to stick around? Do we need to be really actively working towards this? For now, I would say TikTok, my anticipation is that it is going to stick around at least for a little bit longer here. So if you're not already, at least just getting your feet wet and create an account. It doesn't hurt to create an account, see what's going on there. And also it's a nice way to create content that you can then leverage on the other platforms that you're using more actively. So TikTok, I think, is definitely something that we're seeing continued growth in. So and it's a fun rabbit hole to go down. So I would say definitely keep an ear to the ground for that. The second thing that I would say is dynamic and personalized advertising is winning. And we're seeing this from the brand side. So I'll give you an example. We run on your behalf. You may not even know that we're doing this for you. We run something that's called a dynamic ad for real estate. So if someone comes to coldwellbanker.com and they look at one of our listings and they leave before actually submitting a lead form, we follow them on social media until they turn into a lead. And we do this by showing them, hey, we saw you looking at this listing on coldwellbanker.com. Here's a few others that look like it. And that's our way of getting them to come back, because it's a really dynamic and personalized experience. It's not just, hey, you were on coldwellbanker.com, come on back. So that dynamic and personalized advertising, something you can be thinking about how you can add that personalization in your marketing efforts. That's where you're going to see really great return. And then the other thing is around data and privacy. We're seeing a huge shift. Anytime you go on an app now, it asks you, can it track your activity? Anytime you go on a website, you're seeing, I have to accept cookies. That's all about your data privacy. And what this really means for you is that some of the targeting that you'll have available through things like social media is going to become a little bit more restricted over time. So the thing that you can do to be proactive here is your first party data. The data that you have about your clients is more valuable than ever. So make sure that your CRM, your database is constantly being scrubbed and updated. And then you're using that data to create your own social media audiences, because some of that, tracking and targeting that you're going to have available through social media is going to become more limited, and your first party data is going to be the thing that you're going to end up leaning on more heavily than ever.
That's a great point. Yeah. A good case for starting to, continuing to build our database and make sure that we have that information, within
Absolutely.
our CRM to be continuing to market to those people. That's awesome. Great advice.
Cool.
Awesome. So we've got about 5 minutes left. So continue putting your questions in the chat if you do have anything in mind. But I do also want to have you kind of touch on a few different of the marketing resources that are available through Coldwell Banker. I know there's a ton of different platforms and resources that are available to us, exclusively as Coldwell Banker agents. Can you just kind of touch on a few of some of the highlights, maybe ones that you're seeing agents have really, great success with recently?
Sure. I know it feels overwhelming, right? There's so much stuff out there. But one thing I would share with you is that we've actually tracked those that use Coldwell Banker products are 2 times more productive than those that don't. So if there's a case for logging into something, testing it out, that's your case. Couple ones that I would highlight would be social ad engine. So this, to me, if you're scared of social advertising or you just don't know where to start, this takes all the guesswork out of it. You can run a social ad in 3 minutes or less. You don't have to know all the algorithms, inside and out. It gives you a number of different packages, and it pulls all of your listing data in, so you don't have to re-enter or re-add photos. It really makes it very simple for you, and we see incredibly efficient results out of this advertising mechanism. The second would be brand serve. So a lot of folks are like, I need content. I don't know where to go. Brand serve is your digital asset creator. So you can come in here, find virtually anything you might need to populate your social media channels. And you may not know this, but the national advertising campaign that Coldwell Banker produced that we call Dream, it's the #1 ad in the real estate industry. And you have a customized version of it for Coldwell Banker distinctive properties in brand serve. So if you haven't already, go in, download it, share it on your social media, and tout that you've got the #1 most effective ad in the industry. But there's so much more in there that you could get lost in a rabbit hole for sure. So those are just 2 quick ones that I'd highlight.
Yeah, I love those. Social ads is a personal favorite of mine. It's so much easier having run the ads, similar ads. From the ads manager myself in the past, it's just so much easier to be successful. Especially when you're talking about building your database to actually run a campaign and then have that spreadsheet of leads, for those lead generation campaigns that you can just import right into in our case, it goes right into CVIQ, our CRM platform. So super easy to just continue building your database and running effective ads. So we had a question in the chat. Will the Anywhere change have any impact on marketing strategies moving forward?
Not that I'm aware of. Really, for the most part, the Realogy name is leveraged in our disclaimer. So we'll switch those out as we have to update materials. And when it has an opportunity for us to showcase the new direction of Anywhere, which used to be called Real Estate or Realogy, I think really the message that we've heard around the Anywhere name is about just getting closer and closer to the consumer and providing more and more value to that consumer, which is what you all do every single day anyway. So for us, I think that's what we're looking forward to, the opportunities behind that name change. But from an impact on your business, I don't expect any sort of, major changes at this moment. That's a good question.
Good to know. Yeah, for sure. So let's slide over to we got about a minute left, but I want to make sure we touch on that slide. You had a really great slide that you put together with some people who we should be following on social media, agents who are doing a really good job. If it's all right with you, I might just share this with everyone afterwards. We can make sure that we are going through and following all of these people. But if you just want to touch on kind of what are some of the common things that you're seeing on some of these social media rock stars, people who are really crushing it?
Personality. So they add a little bit of their flair. They each have a different, way of doing things, and regular. They're posting regularly, whether it's, a listing post one day and then, a behind the scenes look or a market update. They're really kind of switching it up, keeping you interested and engaged. And it's not always super polished. They like to have a little bit of fun too. Kristen Robinson is someone that built her business on social media. She's got about 40,000 followers on Instagram that she's just built up over the last couple of years. And she's, just a really cool, different sort of take on social media. A lot of these folks are sort of, have been rock stars in social for a while, but she's sort of one of the newer up and comers. So I'd call her out specifically, but all of them are fantastic to follow.
Awesome. Yeah, and I noticed a lot of video. So that's probably a whole other topic for another Focus Friday, but a lot of video I'm seeing out there. So I'll make sure everyone has this. I'll send it out in our newsletter this Sunday, so you can all go through and follow all these people and check those out. But I want to be respectful of everyone's time. So one more quick question for you, Tori. What are some ways that we can stay up to date on all of the new things that your team is rolling out, all the new brand initiatives?
Two things. If you're not already joined on the Coldwell Banker Global Network Facebook group, go ahead and request to join. We share updates there. And then the second most important thing I would share is register and join us at GenBlue, October 23rd through the 26th. You can purchase your tickets at genblueexperience.com. It's a one-of-a-kind experience and a fantastic networking opportunity.
Awesome. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Tori, for being here. That was such great information, great tips, and I really appreciate you taking the time to join us this morning. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the opportunity.
Of course. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Have a great weekend.